With us now to review this morning's papers are entrepreneur Kate Hardcastle and Gemma Ford, who's a broadcaster and writer. It's great to have both of you with us. Good morning to you. Let me just kick off with you there, Gemma, and go straight to our first story. So we're looking at the front page here of the Sunday Times. And actually, as a journalist, you really do feel this. Be looking at TV station, your own TV, having to leave its headquarters in West London because of really serious threats. Just talk us through that.
Okay, so it's very unusual that I come on here and get a story that has affected me directly, because I work on a completely different station, which is in the same place as this Iranian station, which is a digital channel which goes out to millions of people in the Middle East. And for the last few months, every time I've arrived at work, it's been a security nightmare and quite frightening. Armoured vehicles, police with guns, we've had to show IDs and letters and all sorts. So it's actually been horribly sinister. And the reason for this is this particular channel has been threatened. And there have been assassination threats. It's been incredibly serious. So it has reached the point the Met have said, we can't put this level of protection on every single day. A man flew in from Austria recently and was filming the premises. So for everybody's safety, they are being forced to move to Washington. It's quite extraordinary. And on a personal note, I'm glad, because it's been quite horrible to be around.
Absolutely. And let me just move on to the next one here, and I'll come to you there, Kate, because the next story is very interesting. I think it's definitely one that will stir up a lot of debate. So we're looking at prominent author Roald Dahl and some of his work having to be rewritten. How do you feel about that? Because on one hand, some people are saying we live in a different time where people are offended. Others would say, well, people are too easily offended. What's your take on this?
I think this is going to be one for the Sunday breakfast tables, isn't it? It's the idea that works of people like Roald Dahl should be reviewed and looked at regarding what's classed as the insensitivity of the language. So I just wanted to pull out an example so you could understand what that meant whilst you were having a think about it. So in James and the Giant Peach, the wording ant sponge was terrifically fat would be replaced with ant sponge was a nasty old brute. So it's removing this conversation around people being fat, being ugly, the twits have been looked at, Augustus Gloop, the famous character in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it's all about trying to see their publisher working with a organisation called Inclusive Minds to try and ensure that language is what they feel suitable for children. But there has been quite the backlash. Talks of censorship, talks of actually the children don't need or want this. It's perhaps the adults that are feeling this is important. And as we come up to World Book Day and you're trying to actually understand the zeitgeist of who we can celebrate as an author and who we can't, all I can tell you is I was a child that was very lucky to have a story read most nights from artists like Roald Dahl, and I feel very balanced and able to judge what's right, what's the correct words, and what are not, despite that being part of my childhood and makeup.
You're so right. I can see this being definitely a debate at the breakfast table this morning for a lot of people. And coming to you there, Gemma, looking at this next story, this is actually a story that has been rambling on for a while, looking at our defence budget. So the headline there in the Sunday Express there, forces too broken to defend UK, and a warning to the Chancellor that actually we need more money. And this comes off the back of the US actually saying recently, revealed by Deborah Haynes, our security and defence editor, that the UK is no longer seen as a tier 1 force.
That's correct. So we have depleted ammunition stocks. We have a shortage of soldiers. The British Army certainly hasn't been funded to levels that would see us always being seen globally, as the best army in the world. Certainly not. So there's an awful lot of consternation. And of course, interestingly, on other front pages today, the usual declarations about how we're world-beating and leading the world in terms of supplying Ukraine with weapons. And well, that comes at a cost. So people saying that we need $3 billion to make us safe. Of course, whenever this horrendous war hopefully will come to an end, it won't, because as we know, there's always repercussions. Will there be threats from Putin? We're at a stage now where Poland are a bigger army than us. You can understand they feel this threat. What worries me is that there isn't this procurement going on, which all sorts of people like Tobias Ellwood and so on, and many generals in the army are saying. there isn't any procurement happening, so we don't have ammunition stocks. It's a bit like when Jeremy Hunt stopped buying PPE to save money, and then we hit a pandemic. So it is a worrying state of affairs.
And talking about that, let's go on to the next story then, Kate. And this is to do with Boris Johnson, the front page of Sunday Telegraph there. Johnson's warning to Sunak on Northern Ireland deal. A lot of people will be thinking, OK, Mr. Johnson, you've had your time. Stop meddling. You didn't manage to fix the protocol. Somebody else is stepping in trying to do it. We don't want to hear from you. But others will probably welcome his intervention. What's your take on this?
It's an interesting story in that yesterday we heard the news that the UK's Prime Minister had made a joint statement with the European Commission President saying that they had made very good progress when it comes to solving the protocol. But Brexit is very much back, if it ever went away, and is live in the stories in the press this morning. And this is because there has been this, what's classed as the first intervention by Boris Johnson in what potentially could be, as Summers class, the ditching of the NI protocol bill. And I think as this rages on, it's going to garner support for Johnson in terms of perhaps those veteran Brexiteers who really feel that somehow this is going to make Brexit undone, the very thing they don't want. So I think we have got this inflammatory conversation where we've got a Prime Minister currently trying to be in the role, be present, work through the issues, work through the scenarios to see them. And then all of this flame and fire is going to be back into the conversation, into the mix, as Johnson stokes the fire of people that feel this could be preventative or an issue when it comes to the Brexit deal.
And the next story then that we'll move on to, this is on the front page of the Mail there. Andrew fears that he will lose his 30 million home. Gemma, let me just come to you for your take on this. And I think this really, for him, will drum home the reality that his mother is no longer there to protect him. Some people may probably not feel so bad for him. Some people may.
Oh, I think the violins are quite small. Mine's tinsy. His mum, our late Queen, did used to give him money out of her personal funds to keep him going. And what King Charles is saying is this is not going to happen anymore. There's not going to be a gravy train in terms of your grant, which was a huge amount of money, something like £250,000 roughly a year. So he's worried that he might have to lose his £30 million home. I guess it's called downsizing. But in light of what everybody in the country is experiencing, I just don't think any of us are going to be losing any sleep over this.
I mean, I wonder if he can move into something really cheap. I don't know, maybe like £1 million home. How does one cope?
Exactly. David Cameron's shepherd's hut, something like that.
Let me come to you, the next story then, Kate. So now this is very, very serious story. The front page of the Mirror there, and cops' sick messages betrayed Harvey and me. Absolutely astonishing. What's going on here?
We have a parent who has had information, a letter through from the Met to explain that her son has been the victim of awful imagery and discussion in a WhatsApp group that has been created by members of the Met. And I think this is a very sad state of affairs because it should shock, it should surprise. And as we know, we are months and months on now from a horrendous amount of complaints and issues. That means that we're not surprised any longer. I have read the story, I've read the letters, much information as is out there at the moment, but betrayed is the right word, I think. Absolutely betrayed from an institution and a force that should be trusted, to think that this gentleman, this young boy who has, yes, genetic disorders and conditions, but regardless, has just been discussed in a derogatory way in messages for a force there for protection, just once again is breathtakingly sad. And again, she's been informed, Katie Price has been informed that this will go to court and information will be out then in the general public for us to understand more.
And it's so interesting there, Kate, that you said a force that should be trusted. And of course, that force has come under a lot of fire, hasn't it? Because of similar things that we've seen, because of similar WhatsApp messages that we've seen, derogatory, racist, bigotry messages that we've seen, really certainly not doing itself any favours, is it?
It's huge scrutiny, but that's why I started it with parent, because I think immediately when you affix something like Katie Price, celebrity, etc.
Oh, Kate,
I am conscious.
Kate, I'm so sorry. We've just run out of time and I've just threw a question at you, but we'll be back in the next hour and we'll see you after the short break.